Hello and welcome to the 295th episode of Real Hawk Talk. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter at HawkBlogger. And folks, I gotta wear one tonight. Drew Lock, the man, the myth, the legend, has beaten the reigning NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles with a 92-yard game-winning drive, throwing two absolute dimes. We won't talk about some of the rest of the throws, at least for a little while. I got to just totally eat this one because Drew Lock is a guy I have been relentlessly dragging all season, past season, during this game. And I will likely drag him at some point during this pod, but I'll try not to. I'll try to save that for another pod. But this was a rough one if you were a Drew Lock detractor, because, man, the guy did it. He did it. He came through in the end. And with that, I got to bring in my boys who, assuming I can actually find a way to do this, let me bring in Nathan Ernst and Jeff Simmons at Nathan11 and at Real Jeff Simmons. Nathan, just like you always expected, Drew Lock winning big Monday Night Football games.
I don't think we need to get too crazy here. But I got legit emotional about this win in a way that I can't remember being emotional about a Seahawks game. I don't know, in a long time. Maybe like the Vikings playoff game in like negative 18 degrees with Doug Baldwin doing wild things.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I mean, I think this team's alive and they didn't quit. And I think if you have not seen Drew Lock's post-game interview on the field, that resonated with me a lot. He was
Tell us about it, because I missed it. What was that? What was that interview?
Well, he was emotional. I mean, he didn't like cry or anything, but he was, you could feel like the vocal cords were a little tight or whatever, and he just kept talking about, hey, these guys, the way they went out and battled and the way they went out and played, and that they had, the way, basically the way that they supported me is what he kind of kept saying. Like, he felt like very proud and very fortunate, and like, it was an incredibly likable. Like, I'm not on the Drew Lock train. I still think Gino's the best quarterback. I don't think I'm going to badmouth Drew Lock nearly as much going forward after the way that he handled that and talked about that. And I think it really, like, it was just cool. Like, as much as we've talked about, like, is this the end? Is this the end of Pete? Do we tear it down? Who has to go? Is it finally time for John to be fired? Is it finally time for Pete to be fired? Is this ownership group going to lead us to another Super Bowl? Like, I think it just, like, I don't know, for like a moment, it felt really, really good again. And it felt like this team cared. Like, and this is stupid because, like, I love Sherman. I don't know why this, like, comes to mind, but Sherman this week, I thought, like, his comments were super fair, but he came out and he was like, hey, like, because everyone was mad at him, and Marshawn checked him, right? Marshawn checked him and said, hey, remember where you won your ring? And Sherman's comments were like, they were really good. He was like, look, I brought this ring to Seattle, not the other way around. Like, remember who brought you the ring? And this was like the opposite, where like Locke was just so appreciative, and he was like, these dudes went out and fought, and like, and they rallied around like me not having started and like, had a full week of practice in like years and all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, this is one of the pure moments as a Seahawks fan that I can remember in a really long time. And they're set up really well now to go 10-7. They're going to probably play a couple, there's a couple different teams they can play in the playoffs that they've either beaten or played really well against. Like, all of a sudden, it all feels very different. And it's cool. It's really, really, really cool moment as a Seahawks fan. And I don't feel like we've had a lot of cool moments as Seahawks fans. There's always been something. We've always been mad about something. We've always been fighting about something. And this was fun. This was really, really fun.
Jeff, it is late for you. So I want to give you a chance. I can't wear this any longer.
Thank you.
It's freaking hot in there.
I would have started laughing the whole show.
So tell me, Jeff, why of all games, why of all moments is this worth you staying up till 1 a.m. to do a post-game show? What about
that? That game was absolutely, the end of that game was bonkers. Like I can't go to sleep right now. If I'd been there, I'd be sitting in bed on Twitter or probably watching the show anyway. So I'm going to be up for a while. Games, like Nathan said, that games just don't end like that. And Brian, I could have been there right with you wearing that bag all game because Drew Lock was driving me crazy. I thought he was awful for most of that game. And then that last drive, when he needed to make those deep shots, that throw to Metcalf down the sidelines was awesome. And then the throw to JSN was obviously great. But like there was like 5 or 6 plays in this game where he looked like Charlie Whitehurst. And like there was a throw, it was just missing. He was off target. He was throwing the wrong ball. And for him to come down and do that drive, that was as unpredictable as any Seahawk ending we've seen. Nathan covered it. That's why it was kind of crazy. But like it's just crazy how small the margins are because if the Seahawks don't have that drive, the narrative is that Pete blew the timeout and blew the thing. And he is a national kind of embarrassment. And now that story just almost goes out the window because Drew Lock had that magical drive. And for all the people who want Pete fired and think the team's going nowhere, like it's kind of a conflicting moment because they were that close to that being the take. Like, what's the takeaway on radio tomorrow? Drew Lock sucks and that Pete blew the game. And it's just that drive was just so awesome and almost wipes that whole thing away. So it's like, it's a weird moment for like, there was a lot of really, really good things in that game. And there was obviously a lot of frustrating things. Like Kenneth Walker had by far his best game of the year. I thought he looked the closest we've seen to as a rookie. Leonard Williams was awesome. I thought Julian Love obviously makes the 2 big interceptions. He looked noticeably better than Jamal's been lately. But other than that, and DK in the last drive was just a man possessed. That was so cool. All the guys who want to get rid of DK, that's what DK can be. And he just took over that game. And I think another takeaway is, man, the Eagles are not good.
Yeah.
Like they should have put that team away easily. And Lockwood had like 100 passing yards going into the last drive. And again, like I thought Locke was terrible for 90% of that game. And to the point where like I was wanting Gino to come in and you gotta take your hat to him, man. Like Nathan said, the interview was unreal. Like it was like the Gino moment from last year when he beat Denver and kind of had a similar kind of game and where most of it was shit, had a couple good drives. And then the really cool moment at the end. And you got to feel for the guy who struggled. But like all the people who were pushing, I got some DMs from buddies who were like, see, I told you Drew Lock was the guy. And I'm like, oh, come on. But Brian, it's about to get ugly for you, man. I see the chatter's already starting of who's going to start now. How Softy put it out there. It's so you can watch that game and come up with a lot of different ways. But at the end of the day, like that's like Nathan said, that's as cool as a win and improbable, that 90-yard drive at the end of the game where he hits the 3rd and 15.
I think he had 112 yards in something like that in the game to that point. I remember looking.
He did. About 112, 120 yards, something like that.
Yeah. And I remember at the start of the drive just being like, okay, all he needs to do is double the amount of yards he's had in this game, and we win. All right, great. And he did. He did.
I am going to resist as much as I can saying anything bad about Locke's performance today because I think the guy deserves to just have this game. Like you have that drive at the end. You beat a team that most people didn't think you could beat, and he made 2 just miraculous throws on that drive in that weather. And so yeah, like I probably won't spend as much time telling you how great he is as maybe other folks will, but I really, respect, and I'm happy for him that he had that. Happy for us that he had that moment. But Jeff, you hit on a couple things that were storylines for me. I don't think DK Metcalf can be minimized here. DK Metcalf now in almost like 3-4 straight games has been a number one receiver kind of factor after we were just like, where is this guy? I'm going into his game log just to make sure I'm not imagining things. Well, it's actually like it goes all the way back to the Washington game. 7 catches, 98 yards. Rams game, 5 catches, 94 yards, a touchdown. He had a bad game against the 49ers, and everyone did Thanksgiving. Then he goes 6 catches, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns against Dallas. Then he goes, only 2 catches, 52 yards, but he did have a touchdown against San Francisco. 5 catches, 78 yards. And he's doing a lot of stuff in clutch moments. Like a lot of his big plays are like, that was not, everyone's going to talk about the JSN catch. We'll talk about in a second. But that catch DK made down the sideline for the big play was not easy. In that weather, it was not easy. And he ran something DK's done so many times is you hear receivers talk about it, where you don't give your quarterback enough space along the sideline on your go route to throw it. He gave Drew Lock 5 yards to throw it over his shoulder on the right. So there was space for DK to run underneath it, catch it, stay in bounds. DK also made a number of contested catches today. He drew a couple pass interference penalties, including on a 4th down. Like DK Metcalf was a huge factor again. And you can't just say it's just against the Eagles, although he does do that. But I thought that was a big deal. And Jeff, your boy, JSN, I mean, that was a absolutely gorgeous catch. And I can't tell you guys, I don't know how well it was coming through on the TV, but it was pretty miserable out there. Like it was not the type of conditions to make an over the shoulder stretching fingertip catch. And that's what he did. So I thought that was great. I agree with you about the Eagles too, man. It's hard to walk away from that game impressed with them or thinking, I mean, the Seahawks are very clearly like a mid team. And after the first quarter, they kind of controlled the game. I mean, they didn't, I don't know, like it with Drew Lock, with a backup quarterback, no matter what you think of him, like that wasn't a good game if you're an Eagles fan. I mean, if Jalen Hurts isn't rushing for 82 yards, I don't know what they're doing. So another storyline you guys touched on, but I wanted to talk a little bit more deeply was the best player for the Seahawks, the best addition for the Seahawks, the player that didn't play tonight and the secondary, was Jamal Adams sitting out. Like if Jamal Adams plays in this game, do the Seahawks win?
The best player didn't play tonight, and it didn't have anything to do with Jamal Adams. The best player on this team is probably Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Next, second best move that they made or thing that happened. Yes, Jamal Adams. I mean, it feels bad because Julian Love's had an up and down year, and it doesn't I don't know that he's necessarily there's an addition by subtraction thing happening here. Jamal Adams doesn't intercept those 2 balls. He just doesn't. I don't know how anyone. There are the whole yikes thing opened me up to a world where there are people who are absolute diehard. Jamal Adams is the legitimate. Jamal Adams is the best safety in the league. People out there,
still
they exist, and it's wild. It's wild. But I don't even know how those people look themselves in the mirror and are like, Jamal Adams intercepts those 2 passes. No way he intercepts.
Is Jamal Adams even in the screen for any of those passes?
I mean, Jamal Adams is always there, so we know he messed up. So he's in the screen.
I don't know, Jeff, if I buy it. On the first interception, I'm watching that in the air. Jalen Hurts throws that up there. I've seen that play dozens of times now over the last few years. Neither of the Seahawks safeties make that play where they have to actually adjust in the air, come back, and then actually come down with the ball. And That was a
And
fantastic play.
And fight off a receiver. Like Love, I mean, people are gonna say it was PI, but like they were having to he had to battle for that ball too. Like it wasn't it was all of those things combined.
Jeff, how big of a deal is it that Jamal didn't play and Julian Love had the game he did? He's now had 2 turnovers in 2 straight games.
Yeah, it's those. Like I thought Philly was going to get in field goal range and tie the game up. I was confident, especially once Hurts had that run. They're like 12 yards out of field goal range. I don't think there's a chance in hell Jamal makes that first one. Where Brian, you were at the game, you saw the whole movement of it, and that was a crazy, like ball tracking, crazy pure football play that I don't think Jamal's body right now is capable of doing. We see how clunky he looks in terms of running, and it just get there right now. He flashes with like a run defense play, but in terms of coverage and deep coverage, there's no chance. And the sideline won.
I got to share something, guys. This is hopefully this works. Are you guys able to see this win probability chart?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
That is the Minnesota game. That is.
Can you pull up the Packers NFC Championship game? Is it?
I could probably find that. What was that?
Be the only other thing.
So that was.
Oh my gosh! So while you're pulling this up, I'll give you. I'll
look at that.
The only thing I can think of is fluff, which is not the right word for what I'm trying to do here. I'll try to buy you time. I was in a work meeting the other day, and we were talking about Taylor. Oh my God!
No, it's not the same.
Oh, there was
I mean,
that's a pretty big drop off.
I mean, but no, dude, it's not.
Wait, at the end of the first quarter, did you feel like the Seahawks were controlling that game?
I don't know, but I'm gonna bring it back to this game because I honestly don't know if I've ever seen anything. They're looking at like 60% plus win percentage almost that entire time, and then the last minute just drops. That's nuts.
And that's exactly how it felt. I mean, there were some points in this game where I was like, okay, we're going on the pod. I'm not going to be allowed on the pod tonight, obviously, because they're going to lose and Brian will shut us all out. But on Wednesday, I'm going to completely change my tune, and I'm going to shred Pete Carroll because he looked senile for parts of this. He looked like not like, oh, the game has passed him by, but like, okay, Grandpa, let's get you to bed, like at moments in this game. But this is what he's always done. Like this is such a classic Seahawks game where
this is a classic like, Pete Carroll game.
I'm not going to. How many minutes are there in a Seahawks game? 60 or
there's 60.
Eternity in a Seahawks game, but in a normal NFL game, there's 60 minutes, and he goes into these games thinking, I'm not going to lose the game for 58 minutes, and then we will win the game. And it's really, really dumb, and it works so often. I don't understand it. Like, literally, he was just like, I'm not going to let Drew Lock lose this game. We're going to see if Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet can keep this close, and the defense can keep this close. And then, of course, Drew Lock will just pull out 2 of the best throws of his career, and we'll win with 1:40 left. It'll be great. And bang, there it is. It happens. I don't understand how this works every time.
Jeff, that timeout moment for Pete. I mean, that felt like quintessential Pete doing absolutely asinine things. And then a team that's lost 4 in a row, that's on on the ropes. You've got everyone calling for his job, and then they win. They're going to win the last 4 games. They're going to have to win the last 3. They're going to win 4 in a row to end the season, finish 10-7. They're going to make the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win 1 or 2 in the playoffs. Like, that is bizarre.
Yeah, because like I said before, the margin of this game was so small. You just showed it. And that Pete Carroll moment felt like the end. That felt like, Brian, I think you said it. It was like someone's parents trying to figure out how to use Netflix or something.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, and like what Nathan said was like he looked Like the fact that he asked for the timeout back.
That was so sad.
That was
had to be
Oh
sad.
no! Don't
moment.
do
And
it.
that was
Pete.
like for the people who do want change, and I'm certainly one of them. Kind of losing that moment does hurt a bit because the story nationally and the story locally would have been Pete's completely lost it. And
Like you needed like someone to come and put their arm around him and kind of like get him back to the sideline, you know.
Just like, and I was annoyed that they were passing in both those scenarios where they hadn't passed. Like Kenneth Walker was like the only both scoring drives were purely because of the run game, and then it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing for Pete. It was a horrible look, and it sums up really what we've seen all year. It's a guy who looks just kind of cooked, and he seems not over his head, but it's just the game looks like it's past him. And
it has, but at the same time, like how many locker rooms would have? We could say that they've lost all these games in a row. That locker room, like that team responded for the Thursday night game against the Cowboys. They should have won that game. That was a fantastically played game by that team. The defense got cooked, but they played really hard. I think the 49ers game, I don't think it was an awful game. I know that people are going to think I'm crazy. I thought the team, if things had been a little bit different, I think that could have been a closer game. And then they do this. So I do want to get to super chat since I've been taking a while to get to them. Michael Mathis, one of our most generous super chatters and supporters. If you haven't already liked the show, come on, folks, like the show. Click subscribe, go to patreon.com/hawkblogger, patreon.com/hawkblogger to sign up, get access to the Slack channel, and help us raise money for charity. So Michael says, I think that the consensus among the crew is that the remainder of the season is about player development. JSN now has 2 game winners. Julian Love, ! Big Cat getting pressure, ! Bradford had some pancakes, ! And then I think Michael had one more here. Also, Nathan summarized my feelings about Locke perfectly. Drew did it against the reigning NFC champs and seemed humble afterward. Props to him. Thank you, Michael, on the super chat. Really appreciate it. We didn't talk much about Mr. Williams, Leonard Williams. I think I texted you, Jeff, if the Seahawks had signed Leonard Williams to the Draymond Jones deal, and Draymond Jones was the guy that, you know, you maybe like had as a rental, would you feel better about that setup or not?
God, yes. Because now that sets the floor for any negotiation with Williams. Williams has been awesome. Like today was maybe his best game. And he's been one of the few guys throughout this whole stretch, like against the better teams like San Francisco, where he's elevated his game. And there's been so many disappointing parts of this defense. Draymond Jones is just that's not a good signing at all. It's going to only get worse every year. He's a workman-like player, but he just doesn't flash. And they're paying him to be okay. But anyway, Leonard Williams is like, he's been everything they've hoped to be. And tonight he really flashed on 3 or 4 plays. And he's been a really good player for them. It's unfortunate that they haven't been able to maximize it. And if they lost today, like what a waste that's been.
He has been pretty clear about that he's not thinking about the offseason and committing to staying here or anything like that. His comments have not been positive, and I wouldn't blame him for leaving. But I will say, Nathan, I think you and Derek and I have all had maybe different points of view on this. I've never thought that the Seahawks traded for Leonard Williams because they thought they were competing with the 49ers and it was some kind of like win now move. I've always thought, and this is not new, I said it right after trade, I think that they look at him as a 3-year part of their plan they don't have any other impact defensive tackles that they believe in, and this was the cost of getting one. I still think it was too much, but they did it. So if they end up with a rental for Leonard Williams, it's going to be a bad trade, period. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I think the question now is, you know, is there one, are you in favor of them re-signing Leonard Williams and keeping him around? And if not, what would have to change for you to be supportive of that?
I mean, I'm supportive of them bringing him back. I don't think they needed to trade a second to secure that ability. But yeah, I mean, he's a good player. If he hit free agency, if the Giants didn't re-sign him, which they probably wouldn't have, and it was just going into the offseason, and we're talking about, hey, who are some interesting guys they can sign? I think Leonard Williams would absolutely be, higher up on that list. So yeah, pay him what he's worth and bring him back.
Okay, I got some quick hitters for you guys about whether they've lost their starting job because of this game. First question, Jamal Adams. Has Jamal Adams lost? And I'm not looking for. Oh, geez. I don't know if I can
get to all the super chat, right, Brian?
Will, Greg, I appreciate the super chat. I think I'm gonna have to. I think I have to leave that just for the people in the chat, but I appreciate it. Not gonna flash that up here. Did Jamal Adams lose his job tonight? For real,
no.
Not like a hot take, but do you honestly think Jamal Adams is going to be on the bench from here on out? Nathan?
No. They traded so much for this guy. They paid him. They put up with a lot of his BS all year. I think if he was benched tonight, which isn't a sure thing, if he was benched tonight, it was with the intention of motivating him, not removing him from the situation. So, was this a step on the road to him losing his job? Oh, yeah, 100%. Absolutely. He needs to fix some stuff and probably pretty fast. But no, I think their intention is to get him right and get him playing again. So no, I don't think he lost his job tonight.
Jeff, your quick read?
I don't think he will, but if it was up to me, I would shut him down for the rest of the season. He doesn't look healthy out there, and it's hurting the team and it's hurting himself. If I were him, I'd try to get right. And I think the more he plays, the more he hurts his future brand. I know this injury, Pete said the other day, it's a 2-year injury.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of talking about it like anything they've gone from him this year has been a plus. It's all about next year. And if you're trying to compete for a playoffs, which I don't know what, I think that's how Pete has to think right now, as much as I don't know if that's the best thing long-term for anything, but I don't think I'd bring Jamal back until he shows he can run. And he still doesn't look healthy out there to me. And I know we're playing some teams that they don't have great tight ends. They're not going to dominate the passing game. They're going to play Mason Rudolph and probably Ryan Tannehill the next 2 weeks. But you want him running against Kyler Murray in a couple of weeks? I'd rather have Julian Love on the field, to be honest.
Yeah. I think that they did not bench him out of play tonight. I think they benched him out of physical. I don't think he's really able to run right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they give him another week or 2 weeks. I also wouldn't be surprised if he's back out there. But I agree with Nathan. I think he should be basically benched until he can show that he's healthy again, and he just hasn't. Next guy on the list, KJ Wright. Has KJ Wright lost his job?
I think so. I don't think KJ Wright's going to start for this football team again.
I mean, that guy had some really shit takes this week. I'm just going to say it. He had some really shit takes this week. And
wait. What? Actually, God, I can't believe I'm.
Yeah.
I feel terrible. Look.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nope. Shit takes. I'm not going to defend KJ. Let's just move on.
I will just say.
I'm mildly curious what he did that was wrong, but because they did bench Reek and maybe bench Jamal. So,
well, I mean, he talked about he called out Geno Smith as that they have no leaders in the locker room. He said Geno Smith was not a leader. Julian Love on his post game interview on his own brought up that Geno Smith and Bobby Wagner stood in front of the team this week and told them what they had ahead of them, put it out in front of them, that a lot of teams that Julian Love's been on would have been given up after what's happened over the last few weeks and just kind of assumed the season was over, but that the team has a lot of guys that are willing to rally around the leaders that they got and high character guys. And I just think KJ Wright goes from being all about Quandre Diggs 8 weeks ago to being all against Quandre Diggs 2 weeks ago. And then, I thought Quandre, by the way, had a good game today. I think the two safeties had a good game today. They're both making plays today. But I think KJ Wright he's right up there with a certain reporter who I never name, who just had some really bad takes and just seems to continually have bad takes.
But I think we could have and did call this at the time. Like, everyone heard that press conference that Pete had and was like, wow, I think Pete might be really fed up with these players. And then KJ does a podcast where he's like, Pete's really fed up with these players. Everyone's like, whoa, insider info. Like, no, man, he said it on Rock and Salk. Like,
that's a good take.
I think in this case, KJ was right, but only because he listened to the words Pete said on like public airways, just like the rest of us did.
I'm going to stick with that. He should be KJ wrong from this point on. Thank you to Colin Ludstrom, also a longtime supporter, for the super chat. Nathan's tweet of the night, "Please don't be so likable, Drew," was one of his favorites. Thank you for the super chat, Colin.
I think we can all relate to Colin's sentiment there that my tweets are often people's favorites.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I'm sure we've all noticed that. Next player on the list. Did Tariq Woolen lose his starting job tonight, Jeff?
I thought so, but then they played him most of the game. I was very confused. Did they bench him? He was on the field like the second series. So I don't know if they're rotating in, but they seemed a lot more steady at the outside corner spots tonight. I know Trey Brown fell on a big play, but I don't think he does. I think they're going up against Hopkins next week. I think that's a good matchup for Reek. So I'm going to say no. I was certainly a little confused. Did they bench him? Did they not? If you bench someone, usually they're not playing the second series of the game. So still a little confused what happened there.
Has Phil Haynes lost his starting job, Nathan?
Did Phil Haynes not play tonight? I didn't really pay attention.
I'm pretty sure Anthony Bradford got all the snaps, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, then maybe there's certainly a chance.
That was a great answer, Jeff. Do you have an answer?
Yeah, I don't want to see Phil Haynes on the field the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the top one. I'm probably missing somebody, but did Geno Smith lose his starting job tonight?
No, can we talk about the love affair that is happening between Geno Smith and Drew Lock right now? Like, all right, I mean, first of all, I'll answer the question earnestly because I saw like there was a comment in the chat like, why even go back to Geno at this point? Like, I don't know how you watch this game and see anything Drew Lock did and think, oh, Geno couldn't have done that. Like that. The deep ball to JSN was like the touchdown, very good pass, great. I don't want to take anything away from Drew Lock tonight. So please don't hear anything I say tonight as trying to shit on Drew Lock because I'm very emotional about the whole thing. And right now I have a huge heart for Drew Lock. But like, we're also talking about a dude that absolutely just bombed it over Tyler Lockett when he was wide open deep and some stuff. So like, I think realistically, there's nothing that Drew did tonight that Geno couldn't do. Can you? I don't know if you can open the group chat here, but like there are some tweets where like there's they captured it live.
I just wanted to see backwards hat Pete. I mean that is just a sight to behold.
This guy, he looks like that Steve Buscemi meme.
Yeah, how do you do, fellow kids?
Yeah, it's like perfect.
So when Drew Lock throws that touchdown, he's doing some weird hand sign chest things that I'm too old to understand. And then they cut to Geno, and Geno is like grinning ear to ear and doing it right back at him. And then Geno had some tweet tonight about how, like, basically it was so awesome what Drew Lock did tonight. And then Drew Lock made some comment in the post-game presser about, what do you say? The encouragement that he's given me, talking about Geno. I appreciate him more than words can describe. And Geno quote tweets it with like, not crying face. Like, these two dudes absolutely love each other. And there's like this awesome little bromance thing that's happening after the game. And I don't think we need to worry about who's going to start next week for a minute. Like, there was this really cool ending to this football game. The Seahawks are alive. They're probably going to make the playoffs at this point. They have a shot at winning a playoff game, which has been their little bugaboo other than the Niners. And Geno and Drew Lock are super happy for each other. So that's cool, man. Let's just be happy for each other. I think I don't know. Jeff, I don't have any interest in any kind of bullshit takery tonight.
I love it, dude.
Only Ernest feel good stories.
I know you are as wholesome as I've ever heard you, Nathan. It warms my heart. Jeff, do you think? I know we know what Pete's already said. Do you think that Geno Smith should lose his job based off of how Drew Lock played tonight?
I do not. I saw enough. Lock he was great on that last drive, but that doesn't. And again, everything Nathan said is hard to disagree with, but I think I just saw a guy that looks like a backup quarterback. And that's really the job of the backup quarterback, is to keep you 500, to keep you in games. But to me, it depends on Geno's health. Like, I've been saying this for a while. I covered other sports. Hockey was one of them. And one of the most tough injuries in terms of like predicting injury timelines, in terms of driving players crazy, was groin injuries. Because groin injuries don't have traditional treatment. It's a lot of rest. The timelines are not predictable, and they linger. So the fact that Geno practiced but didn't feel right, and everyone's like, oh, what's going on with Geno? Those are the exact symptoms I used to see when I would cover hockey players, especially like goalies who move side to side. And the groin injury, I know Geno was saying out round-the-clock treatment. It's a really tricky injury that doesn't have traditional treatment. So I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, you got the wrong injury, Geno. That's what Russ did maybe for like that MCL a couple of years ago, maybe for that. But the groin injury, I know people laugh at that, just the term, but it could be he practices all week and then it flares up again and he's not ready to play. So I don't know if you have to make that determination now. I think I just saw enough. There was like 5 throws in that game where he looked like a backup. And there was like Geno's throws that went to, I mean, I think if Geno plays that game like he had, I think the Seahawks could have blown them out. The way I didn't think the Eagles were very good in that game, and Witherspoon not being there lingered a little bit too. We haven't talked about that.
Yep.
And I think if Geno's playing, I think they win that game a lot easier. It just depends on what Geno we're getting right now. If it's a hobbled Geno, I'd rather see if Locke can move and manage the game. But they're not playing against very explosive offenses the next couple of weeks. But in a game where you're going to need a more explosive offense, I think Geno is no doubt.
I think that the pregame and the decision making happening there was just once again like galaxy brain Pete ridiculousness. Like there was no reason to make him active if you weren't going to play him. That was an absolutely ludicrous decision to make. And you like the idea that they would bring him off the bench after he had warmed up and then sat in the rain for however long. It makes no sense. Like it makes no sense. And they literally like had one less player available to them because they made that decision. The only thing that makes any sense is that they actually thought, okay, no, he can play. He's past our bar, so we're going to make him active. He's going to be our starter, and then starting him. But I think this, I will not believe ever. No one can ever convince me that this. I know Brady Henderson, fan of Brady, tweeted out about how they had Matt Hasselbeck active for the last game of the regular season in 2010 when Charlie Whitehurst suited up against the Rams, even though Hasselbeck was hurt. As a great pull, it doesn't make it a good choice. Like, it's just a stupid choice. So I don't know. That was a whole weird thing. I'm glad it worked out in the end. I certainly hope Geno gets back soon. I want to get Al-Azadi's super chat here. Can we get a shout out for the tackles? Cross looks great since coming back from injury. Pass protection, guys. I don't know what it looked like on TV and if they're breaking stuff down. pretty legit. Was it just Drew getting rid of the ball quickly? Because I saw at some point it was like a 2.3, 2.4 second time to throw, or was the protection decent?
I thought the protection was pretty good. I thought I didn't see Hassan Reddick flash at all. And Jalen Carter had the one splash play, but he was invisible for 99% of the game. I know he blew Anthony Bradford off the ball on that sack before the Pete timeout, but against Reddick and Josh Sweat and Carter, I thought those guys were going to eat that offensive line apart. And really the one play with Sweat was like an unblocked play on the run, which was kind of embarrassing, but it was a run blocking. Pass protection, I thought, was really good. And I did not think that would be the case. I thought that was an area Philly would exploit. And the fact that guys like Reddick and Carter were basically invisible. Now I'm curious what like the Pro Football Focus grades are, but to me, watching the TV copy, I was stunned at how quiet Carter was and how quiet Reddick was. And I have to assume that's part of it is pass protection.
Was Abe Lucas clearing some of those runs? Like from what I could see, Abe Lucas was a part of the run game actually getting untracked. What's making you smile, Nathan?
Oh no, this is some truly internet poison brain. I'll put it in the group chat, but
okay. I think, I mean, getting back to your take on Kenneth Walker, Jeff.
Yeah.
This was a special game for Kenneth Walker. It is probably one of the most special 86-yard performances you're going to see. He's going to have so many forced missed tackles from this game. He made guys miss in a phone booth multiple times where it's just like, there's no way he's getting out of that. And on one, I think his biggest play where he cut all the way back and Drew Lock helped block for him for the touchdown. I thought I saw Abe Lucas clear the whole line of scrimmage off to the left and create that space. So I do think the offensive line seemed to play better. Maybe Abe Lucas, we weren't sure he was going to make it back. We weren't sure he was going to stay back, but so far, knock on wood, so good. Be nice to see if those guys could continue. Couple other things. I'm trying to think if there's other pieces. How do we feel about Shane Waldron tonight?
Same as we ever did. I mean, fine.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Fine.
He's fine. I think the Waldron hate has been overblown all year. He had to figure out how to call an offense without his two starting tackles, and it's not really his fault that Stone and Jake Curhan were not very good. I don't know. I don't think he's perfect. He's not the next McVay, the next hipster homebrew, as Dayna would call him.
Yeah.
He's not the next Shammy.
Yeah.
But he is, maybe one in a series of offensive coordinators who are perfectly good. Which tends to get you fired, but I don't know. I don't quite get the Waldron hate this year.
I've been pretty critical of Waldron at times, and tonight not as much. I thought a lot of the mistakes were user errors. There's 5 or 6 throws in that game. There's one where DK is wide open on that in-breaking route. He throws it at DK's feet. Under no pressure. There's one where Charbonnet is in the left flat, moving the chains. He guns the ball like a fastball. And a cat just came up to my window. And he guns it like the fastball. And the thing Locke kept doing is he kept putting the wrong kind of speed on the ball. There was another one in the flat where he just guns it by Tyler Lockett, just guns it. And like the deep ball, Tyler Lockett, that's the perfectly designed play that hits. He wasn't within 5 yards of him. Like that's a touchdown with Russ, 100%. It's a touchdown with Geno, in most cases, or a chunk play. I thought the run game was working, and the touchdown drive, they stuck with it. I thought that was good coordinating.
That was good.
So, I think there's easier ways to get the ball to DK Metcalf. I still will put that on the coordinator to an extent. Like you saw that screen pass where you got Charles Cross in space, and where they were down in the sticks, they completely flipped the script of that with getting DK that easy touch. I think there's easier ways to get him. I think JSN, you see what he does well. There was that big third down where he just had a basic crossing route. Drew hits him. That's a play they need to run more often. That's what JSN does well. Tonight was not a night I thought Waldron hate was justifiable. I thought they played conservative. I thought they played to stay in the game. And that's what you do typically with a backup quarterback. And if Locke hits those 4 throws that we talked about, again, the Seahawks might win comfortably. Like if he hits that play to Lockett, which was a really good design play, tonight I wasn't bothered by him. I thought they were really limited and they really did what they could.
That's interesting. I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I still was struck by running on 2nd and 12. Like there was a lot of 2nd and long runs in this game still, which are just pretty much indefensible decisions, I think, on almost any situation. And so those still stuck out to me, but it was nice to see him just stick with the run to some extent. But I think he just doesn't know how to use a run game. Like he's like, okay, now it's working. I'm just going to do it all the time. No, don't do that. Like, and I don't know. I still come back to what you said a while ago, Jeff, about maybe he's, can scheme things, but is not a good play caller and doesn't know when to call what thing. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason for.
No, his sequencing is not great. It's been an issue for him.
I mean, that's been a thing all year, like the scripting versus not scripting, right? And when you get him just ad-libbing, it gets a lot worse. But like, you talk about like 2nd and 12 runs. I mean, this is a little bit like Mariners fans getting mad at Jerry Dipoto because they won't spend money. Like, y'all, I don't
not the reason they're getting mad at Jerry Dipoto.
I know. Well, it's part of the reason.
He's an arrogant prick. That's why people are getting mad at Jerry Dipoto.
Part of the reason. Like, some people are like, Jerry Dipoto won't spend. Like, are you new here? Like, a Pete Carroll team ran on 2nd and 12. Fire the offensive coordinator.
Oh, no.
Like, come on. Like, they won't throw over the middle anymore. Like, I don't know that this is Shane Waldron. But, like, so like going back, like we talked about this earlier in the year, like this offense doesn't always have a purpose or doesn't always make sense, and it feels like it's a camel, and you can see like, oh, this is like the part where the camel spits at you and they run 8 JSN screen passes in a row. But tonight it felt like the camel spitting at you worked, and like
this analogy is not working for me.
And Waldron just kept yelling at the camel, spit at him, and they just kept running with Walker, and it worked. Like he hit on something that worked, and he just kept spamming it, which is a fun thing to see an offensive coordinator do, and it worked, and it kept them in the game, and it got them the points that they needed up to the point where they were just like, okay, Locke, you're gonna have to throw the ball. Let's see what happens, and then it worked. So I think this was overall a pretty good game for Waldron, and I think maybe really a vote in his confidence.
Interesting. Well, I did want to check one stat line there on that regard. Seahawks finished 6 of 14 on 3rd down. This was the defense that was dead last in the NFL in 3rd down defense, 32nd. So not great, but you got Drew Lock. So anyway, I think we'll kind of I'll ask one more question to you guys. Did this game change your opinion about how the rest of the season is going to end? And Nathan, I think we got this from you. You think they're set up well to finish with wins. Jeff, where are you?
No, this didn't change my opinion. This was a game that I thought Philly was beatable. I thought I picked them initially to win this game, even though when Locke was trending to start, I didn't think they would, to be honest. I just don't have much faith in Drew Lock. But I think we've just seen enough patterns that this is a team that's right dead in like the middling level, a little above the lat. I picked them to win 10 games. They have very much a chance to win 10 games. They're going to play against the kind of teams they typically beat with probably backup quarterbacks and third-string quarterbacks, and then a 30-win Arizona team coming up. And it's weird because on one hand, you watch them against San Francisco and you say, like, they're not close to contending. You watch Baltimore, but you see the NFC and they were right there with Dallas. They beat Philly and they beat Detroit. So it's this weird season going on where they're right there in the NFC, but they're not close to San Francisco. So not much has changed for me. I think they are what they are. I still think my views on Pete and where the team needs to go, I completely stand by those. I still don't think the team does have enough difference makers. And you saw without Witherspoon, they missed him. I think DK Metcalf at times looks like a difference maker. I think JSN has that potential. But again, overall, they are a solid group of players that is lacking those stars. And that's what's holding this team back. I think that and the details of the coaching, and as much as that was fun, no, I'm not much has changed for me.
All right. Well, I think we're going to start wrapping there. I'll just say this. I thought there wasn't a chance in hell when the Seahawks are standing on the 8-yard line that they were going to score a touchdown. I didn't think there was a chance in hell when the Seahawks were at their own 30-yard line. I didn't think there was a chance in hell when they were at the Eagles' 29-yard line or whatever it was. That Drew Lock was going to... I was standing next to an Eagles fan wearing a Jalen Hurts jersey, and he wasn't sweating. That stadium, there wasn't any electricity in there. There was no anticipation. I'm telling you, it was just people watching paint dry. And then he throws that touchdown, and there was almost a moment of pause. Like, wait, did that happen? And then everyone starts cheering. And the cheer was not the normal just eruption of glee. It was like, can you fucking believe what just happened? Like, nobody believed it. And it was surprise. It was the weirdest game-winning moment I've seen as a Seahawks fan, live as a fan. And I think it's justified. This was a bizarre, unexpected, rare, like all the things that led into this game, all the things that's led into Drew Lock getting here. Thank God for the Russell Wilson trade one more time. Drew Lock with the higher QBR this week than Mr. Wilson as a backup quarterback against the Eagles. This was a special, bizarre, if this is Pete Carroll's swan song, this is his little flourish. This is his bizarre Pete moment. They beat the Eagles for 16 years in a row now, 8 straight times. They win on Monday Night Football. They're the winningest team on Monday Night Football of any franchise. There's just something weird, and I'm happy that we got to see it. So, I want to give Nathan Ernst and Jeff Simmons at Nathan11 and at Real Jeff Simmons some gratitude for showing up, especially late for Jeff.
I just read a really cool stat, by the way.
Tell me about it.
So I barely talked about JSN, which is pretty wild for me. JSN is the only rookie. Is it only rookie receiver or only rookie? The only rookie since 1960 to have 2 game-winning fourth-quarter catches in the last minute of a game.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty wild. He had the one in Cleveland to win the game in the last minute, and he had this one in the last minute. No one since 1960.
And completely different ways to do it.
Oh,
totally.
Yeah.
Completely different ways to do it. Like, that Browns touchdown looked easy. It wasn't. He made it look easy. And kind of the same thing with this one. Like, it looked just kind of like, all right, he got one-on-one and he beat his dude and he caught the ball. But, winning a one-on-one like that, with that not being, what his deal is, and then to catch that ball the way he did in the rain, I think, it's been a weird year for him, and we were also excited for him, and I feel like it's kind of gotten a little muted, but I think I think he's really good. I think he's really, really, really good. And yeah, that touchdown was really exciting, and contrasting that and that stat and then contrasting the way he does it is really cool.
You know what? Kind of an interesting thing that I wouldn't have guessed about JSN is, okay, his first 3 games, 13 yards, 34 yards, 10 yards, 5 yards. Okay. 0 touchdowns also, but no more than 34 yards in his first 4 games. From there on out, he has only had 2 games under 40 yards the rest of the way. That's not like he's putting up 100, but you're basically getting 48, 63, 63, 53, 40, 41, 62, 40. What does that sound like? Sounds like a third receiver. Like, it's what you're looking for from someone like that. He's got 3 touchdowns now on the year. I think he's right on schedule. And I think I agree with both of you guys. He's emerging. And I think if anything, it's been more about protection. It's been more about play calling, sometimes the quarterback play, more so than JSN. So I think he's on schedule. And I do want to get one more super chat in because Jedediah generously offered one here. He says, best win of the year. This team is a draft away from a Super Bowl. LFG Hawks.
That's a take.
It's a super chat talking about the Super Bowl. And Jedediah, let's end on that. I love that sentiment. I think we'd all like to believe that's true. I want to thank Jeff Simmons. I want to thank all of you. If you haven't already, give the show a like, click subscribe, go to patreon.com/hawkblogger and sign up to get access to the Slack channel, support the show. Over $260,000 have been donated to charity. You can participate as well and meet a bunch of fun Seahawks fans. It's a really great crew. We got another new Ring of Honor member in the last week, so really appreciate having folks join up. Guys, let's have some fun savoring this. We'll do our Wednesday show here in a couple days, and then we got the Titans. So this all comes back around pretty quick. All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your night. Take care and go Hawks.